Ed Sheeran common tongue vocabulary and why his lyrics feel like they were written about your life. Let me start with a confession. I have lost count of how many times an Ed Sheeran song has come on, and I have thought he must have been reading my diary. It is not because my life is that dramatic. It is because his words sound like the ones I use when I'm talking to my sister or ranting in my notes app at midnight. That is the whole trick. Ed Sheeran writes in what I call common tongue. He does not write for critics. He writes for people. And people respond to that in a big way. He chooses simple words that carry heavy weight. Think about the songs you know by heart. Thinking Out Loud, Perfect Photograph, The A-Team. None of them are packed with words you have to Google. He says dance and dark and lips and home and hold and hope. These are playground words. We learned them when we were kids, but in his hands they suddenly mean everything. That is common tongue vocabulary at work. It is not about sounding smart. It is about sounding true. When he says, my heart is falling too, you do not pause to decode it. You feel it in your chest right away because you have said something like that to yourself before. He builds whole worlds from small, ordinary moments. Ed is a master at taking the most normal scene and making it cinematic without changing the language. Bare feet on a cold kitchen floor, singing in the car with the windows down, a t-shirt that still smells like someone you miss. None of those images need fancy explanation. You have lived one version of them. So when he sings about it, your brain fills in the rest with your own memories. That is why his lyrics feel personal. He gives you the outline in everyday words, and you color it in with your life. I think that is also why his songs translate across cultures so well. You do not need to be from Suffolk to understand the feeling of going back to your hometown and realizing you have changed. The words are simple enough to travel. The emotion is big enough to land anywhere. He talks to you, not at you. One of my favorite things about Ed Sheeran is that he never sounds like he is performing wisdom. He sounds like he is figuring it out right alongside you. He messes up and says sorry. He gets nervous on a first date. He gets too drunk and calls someone he should not. He puts all of that in the lyrics using the same words you would use to tell the story to your friends. There is no distance between the singer and the listener. It feels like a voice note from a mate, not a lecture from a star. That tone is rare, and it is the reason so many of us have that one Ed song we play when we are sad or in love or homesick. It does not feel like consuming art. It feels like being understood. Repetition is a feature, not a flaw. You have probably noticed he repeats lines a lot. Some people call it simple. I call it accurate. Because when you are in love or grieving or anxious, your brain does loop. You do think I am in love with your body over and over again. You do whisper it again and again when you cannot sleep. Ed writes the way we actually feel, not the way a poem looks on paper. That choice makes his songs live in your head for days. The common tongue is repetitive by nature. We say the important stuff twice. He just puts a melody behind it. Why the common tongue makes his lyrics so searchable and so shareable. Here's a fun side effect of writing like a human. People search the way they speak. They type, I will be loving you till we are 70 into Google because that is the line stuck in their head. They do not type a metaphor about enduring affection. So his lyrics naturally match what real people are looking for when they are feeling something big. That is search optimization without trying. He wrote for people first and the algorithm followed. It also makes his lines perfect for captions and texts and wedding vows. You can borrow his words because they already sound like yours. You do not have to explain them to your mom or your partner. They just get it. He proves that relatable is not the same as basic. There is a myth that simple language means simple ideas. Ed Sheeran blows that up on every album. He writes about addiction and grief and fatherhood and faith and failure. Huge topics. But he walks into them through the front door with words we all know. He will talk about Lego houses to explain how it feels to pick up the pieces of a relationship. He will talk about bloodstreams to explain love that feels chemical The concept is deep. The vocabulary is common. That combo is why a teenager and a grandparent can love the same song for different reasons. What we can learn from his approach: you do not need a huge vocabulary to be a great storyteller. You need to pay attention. Ed notices the way light hits a dashboard. He remembers the exact phrase someone said during a breakup. He writes it down without dressing it up. If you are a writer or a songwriter or just someone trying to text your feelings, that is the lesson. Use the words you already have. Say it plain. Say it true. The right people will feel it. Final thought from me to you. Every few years, a new artist tries to reinvent pop music with wild sounds or complex lyrics, and that is cool. We need that too. But Ed Sheeran keeps showing up with an acoustic guitar and a handful of words we all use, and somehow he still owns the room. His common tongue vocabulary is not a gimmick. It is a choice to stay close to the listener. It is a choice to value connection over cleverness. And judging by the way his songs live in our weddings and our breakups and our road trips, it is a choice that works. Next time you hear one of his songs, listen to the words like you would listen to a friend. Notice how little he needs to say to make you feel so much. That is the power of speaking the common tongue. And honestly, I think we could all use more of that.